Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Take on Health with myself, Arion Lillard-Green. I'm your host, and I have a story for you today from Mr. Joe DeMarino. He's going to share with us his story from having a stroke roughly 2 years ago. Thank you, Joe, for joining the show. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you've learned through your experience. And I thank you for being able to come on the show and share your story with others and to educate them.
Thank you for having me.
If you don't mind, can you take us back to the day of your stroke and what do you remember? How did things unfold that day from your perspective? And perhaps the reaction of your family members in that moment as well.
Okay. I was actually out working in the yard doing the normal cutting the grass. Actually came back in the house and sat down to have a cup of coffee. And I started feeling real dizzy, getting a little tunnel vision. Things started getting dark. My left side became numb and tingly and weak. I tried to get up to put my coffee cup in the sink. Then I found out that my left leg was fairly weak. And so I struggled to get to the kitchen counter and realized that something was wrong. So I figured I'm not getting any younger. It was hot outside. I shrugged it off, and for about 5 minutes, maybe, dizziness, the weakness continued, and then it just went away. I was wondering what was going on. This was about 11 o'clock that morning. Then about 2 o'clock, the same thing happened again. I was already in the kitchen. I grabbed the countertop and tried to shake it off. Again, it lasted about 5 or so minutes. The dizziness, the tunnel vision, the numbness, the tingling, the weakness, it went away just as fast as it came. I had to run a couple errands, not thinking anything was wrong. So I went off and did my errands, came home, and then roughly about 4:30, the same episode happened again. That happened in the bedroom, so I struggled down the hallway out to the backyard where my wife was and explained what was going on. Immediately, she realized what was going on and then took me to the hospital immediately. Went to the hospital. They did a bunch of testings, realizing what was going on. At that time, nothing happened again until 10:30 that night. And then that's when they realized that I was having episodes of a stroke. Then at that point, I was in the hospital roughly a week.
I want to delve in a little more about how it started, what you were doing, and kind of suppressing the thought that something was most likely happening. A lot of people, when they're having a health event, will say, is this really what I think it is? And it comes back, and you tell yourself, maybe I can hold off a little bit longer. What was your thought process in deciding when to take what was happening that you don't normally experience seriously? And then at what point did you think, hold on a minute, something is seriously wrong?
It was a hot day in May, and I was working outside. I figured it was a little dehydration, the combination of the heat. I really never thought that it was a stroke. Personally, I really didn't think it would have been a stroke. I'm fairly in good shape. I do have health issues and problems, but never thought in a million years that a stroke would happen to me. So I probably would have dismissed it if it wasn't for my wife.
Thankfully, mentioning your wife, she's a registered nurse. I happen to know her, but she has experience in the emergency room, experience as a
Mhm.
hospice RN as well. So you really had the perfect mix of being able to identify the symptoms you were having and being able to get to the ER in a timely manner. What I talk about with Dr. Michael Madison, who's a neural interventional surgeon, He has a company called ThanaCare, and ThanaCare does advanced care planning for caregivers and patients in the event that they were to experience a health crisis. In the event that you can't speak for yourself, ThanaCare allows people to get those directives planned out in advance. Having said that, have you had any advanced care planning or what if conversations with your family prior to this event?
I have had discussions with my children and my wife. Unfortunately, I do not have a directive. Again, I'm naive, not thinking that it would ever happen again. So that is one of my goals to get that taken care of. I definitely don't want to leave my family burdened by something that I've done to myself out of negligence and to let them worry and have to make that decision. That is my goal, to have that in place, either verbally or written down.
Dr. Madison talks about the problem or the issue with not having your directives actually documented. It's verbal, and perhaps your wife isn't present and is not able to say, this is what he said that we're going to do in any event. Now, we're not necessarily talking about death, but whether you wanted to be on a ventilator for a certain amount of time or artificial nutrition. Dr. Madison recommends people think about it in advance. I know that your wife will make sure all that's done. What we do see, and even myself, is that it's fearful to think, for one, something would actually happen to you, and then to think that you need to take your mind down that thought process. Is there an element of fear, or if there was an element of fear, do you have it anymore?
For having a stroke again,
Even a
or the
stroke
fear
or
of,
fear of completing advanced directives as well?
I do have a fear if something were to happen, and thinking of the thought process, if
Yeah.
this happens, it does scare
Mhm.
me to think of that process, to actually write it down, to visually see it, and to think that's what is going to happen if something were to happen to me. So that
Right.
is, it's very scary, but definitely something that I do need to take care of, again, to take the burden off my family.
Yes, and you're very blessed to have a medical professional as your spouse who's been around the block a few times. Has there been a point where you thought, wait a minute, I better have some sort of plan in place if the stroke were to happen again or anything else?
I have thought of it many times. I do suffer from anxiety now due to the
Mhm.
stroke. It was very worrisome that I do even think about it, but I know I need to do it and I need to act fast because you never know what tomorrow will bring.
Yeah, none of us, actually. Where does the anxiety come from? Because there are people with heart conditions. For instance, my own mother, very rare for her to have a heart condition, considering that she's fairly physically fit and eats fairly well. She has talked about in the past that driving is a concern and all of the paranoia that comes with it. Do you think that contributed to your anxiety as well?
My anxiety does stem from driving, being alone, being home, being alone. That's very worrisome for myself. Again, what if something were to happen to me and nobody's here? Again, my family walking in and seeing something detrimental or less. So the anxiety does come from that. The anxiety comes from thinking about if it could happen again, what would I do? How would I handle this at this point? After the first episode, I should have made the move and called my wife, called 911. I didn't. Again, I thought it was the heat and I just wrote it off. But now that I know that it's happened, it's very scary.
So it takes an amount of emotional rebound, a
Mhm.
fair amount of courage to say, hey, this is what happened. I know the signs and symptoms now, and I'm just going to push forward and live my life because you have returned to driving, correct?
Very little, but yes, my
Mhm.
wife does a lot of the driving.
Inch by inch.
Yes, little bit,
Nice.
little baby steps.
Now, what happened when you were told at the hospital that you had a stroke, or were you still active, or how does that work once they began to
Uh,
assess you?
Once they started assessing me, they did blood work, started the IVs, just basically kept an eye on me. And then another episode happened at 10:30 that night while I was in the emergency room. And that's when they took action and realized what had happened, did my MRI, did CAT scans, and that's when they admitted me and took the necessary steps. I think it
That
was 4 to 5 days. And then they
yeah.
started PT in the hospital, making sure that I could walk with a cane, without a cane. So they assessed me at that point.
Today, you're able to return to your activities of daily living. Do you have any limitations from that event?
I do have some limitations. I do use a cane. I do have other health issues, but with the stroke, my left side is weak. I do have tingling, numbness in my feet. I do have neuropathy in both my feet as well, but I do have weakness on my left side. I actually was pretty much forced to retire and now on disability due to this. I worked construction my whole life and definitely not able to do that in any way, shape, or form now.
Yes, you're talented in construction and building. Your hands are very talented. So how did you adjust to that you now have to be a bit more careful in doing the things that have identified who you are up to this day? Is it difficult to know or realize that your body can't quite do what it did in terms of how you sustained yourself and the way you made a living for so long?
It's very depressing. I can't do 90% of what I used to be able to do. Like I said, I worked construction with carpentry. I was a rigger. We worked with cranes and very heavy objects. Unable to lift a lot of heavy stuff anymore. It's very depressing and knowing that this is the new normal for me, and it hurts. I used to be the bull and the strength of any construction site that I was on. If he can't do it, they knew I could do it.
Yeah.
It's very hard to realize that I can't do that anymore. It's very frustrating, depressing, but it is what it is right now.
How do you see yourself pushing beyond the new identity, the new reality, the new normal, as you mentioned, and restore self worth in some way?
I try to do my best every day. I do little projects here and there, nothing strenuous, but to try to keep myself active and moving. I do have hopes it won't happen, that I can get back to where I was. But I know through physical therapy, through my neurologist, that it won't happen. I like again have other health issues. I've had neck surgery since. So I do have a lot of other issues that are holding me back now, but it's not for a lack of trying.
That's good that you're able to tell yourself, not for a lack of trying, just for a lack of life, so to speak.
Yeah, this are the cards that I've been handed now.
Yeah, you had decisions to make when you had the stroke. Did they offer options or was it pretty straightforward in terms of how you're going to be treated and the plan of care moving forward? Or was it pretty clear cut the way you were going to, the interventions basically?
Yeah, it was pretty much clear cut at that point. After I saw my neurologist and they looked at the MRIs and everything, they said there might be some improvement, but pretty much that was it. It happened, and this is what I'll be dealt with. I just saw my neurologist the other day. Pretty much nothing's changed since the day that I've had my stroke, maybe a percent or two. Even going through PT, I think it was like 6 months. I got very little use that was able to help me. So this is what everybody's telling me is my new normal.
Do you ever think about how it could have gone? How much worse it could have been? Not to downplay what you are dealing with, but do you think sometimes could have been worse, or there are people who don't regain the amount of function that I do, or more so, what pertains to your situation and how you were able to get past it?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very blessed. It could have been a lot worse. My mom had a stroke. and debilitated her. I know several people that have had strokes. They're unable to walk. I do, again, have some issue with my memory, with my weakness, but I count my blessings every day, and I am very blessed to be where I am today. If I would have taken care of my health and not abused my body over the years, medically and physically, I may not be in the shape that I'm in right now, but I could be a whole lot worse. So, yes, I am blessed on that aspect.
Do you experience any guilt in terms of, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that back in the day. Oh, I knew I should have stopped doing this
Mhm.
back in the day." Do you experience that guilt, or is what it is, and the best thing that you can do is just move forward and do better?
No, I live with a lot of guilt, things that I should have done different. And the number one is taking my medication. I didn't take my medication for years, and that's where I blame myself. If I would have taken my medication, exercised a little bit more, and not abused and neglected my body. I was younger many years ago and thought I was invincible. Age caught up with me, my health caught up with me, the stroke caught up
Yeah.
with me.
Yeah, and even for myself, knowing I need to change habits and you think you can push the can down the road, when New Year's starts, I'll do this. Oh, after
Mm.
vacation, I'll come back and do that. Yeah, it's easier said than done.
It is. It is. Anybody that sees this, one thing, take care of yourself, take your medicines if you're on medicines, yearly checkups, monthly checkups, see your doctor regularly. That's the biggest thing. If somebody would have told me years ago, hey, you're going to go to a stroke or you're going to have a heart attack or even death, put the fear in me, I may or may not have listened, but definitely take care of yourself even when you're young and you think you're invincible.
Yeah,
Time will catch up to you.
I got to turn my life around, Joe.
Do it now.
So there are the words of wisdom that I was going to ask you to give. Since you've already done that, what about words of wisdoms in terms of the psychological impact for people who are in the same place you are, maybe haven't been restored to the level of health that you've been restored to, and even their family members? Any words of wisdom from that aspect?
Yeah, just stay strong, stay positive. That's the biggest thing. Even though I lack there of being positive about my situation, talk to family members, keep a nice tight circle of friends, someone that you can call on, rely on when you're feeling down or upset. Call a friend, call a family member, and talk it out. There's a lot of people out there that's gone through the same thing that we've gone through. There's support systems out there. But the biggest thing is just talk to somebody. I have a therapist that I speak to, and she's helped me when I'm down, when I'm depressed, and on my soapbox, so to speak. Why me? Why me? I know why me. I've abused my body. I've not taken my medications, but just a tight support group and always rely on them. Don't think you're going to be a burden. I didn't call my kids for a while and complain, but then they call me and, Daddy, what's wrong? Are you okay? They want to hear it. They want to know that their father or mother or uncle or whoever it may be is okay. Be able to talk about your situation and fight through it and stay strong.
Yeah. Joe DeMarino, thank you so much for telling your story. I know it's not always easy to be on the camera and tell your life and the intimate details, but as I told you when I asked you to come on the show, sometimes even when we expose ourselves in life experiences, there will be someone that in the right moment, this is what they need to hear. And this is
Mhm.
why we started Take on Health and Pub Health TV in general. So thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for having me.